Hello students, today we will be talking about the fourth and the final section of module, that is on doping. We will be talking today about role of homeopathy, that means homeopathic management in treating and managing the cases of doping. So, we will be talking about the various ways in which the homeopathy can manage the cases of doping. We will be covering the various topics under this module, that are namely, in section 4 today, the topic is role of homeopathy in doping. In this section, an overview of what the topic we will be discussing today are homeopathy in sports medicine, the holistic approach to healing, the symptomatic treatment for after effects, organopathic approach of healing, benefits of homeopathic treatment in enhancing performance and stamina, rehabilitation therapy in CAM, safe supplements, and exercise for muscle endurance and stamina. So, starting with the first slide, first we should know what is sports medicine. Now, sports medicine is the medical and paramedical supervision of athletes and the treatment of their injuries and illnesses, whether sustained in training or competition, to facilitate a return to the competitive environment. Now, why homeopathy? Since we all know that homeopathy treats a person as a whole, and they are effective, quick acting and cheap, and they do not interfere with any subsequent therapy. Also, there is no unfair competitive advantage to be gained from taking homeopathic medicine, and they are totally safe. The medicine are not subject to any control by the International Olympic Committee. Holistic approach. Now, the holistic approach in homeopathy means that the treatment is treating person on a whole. It includes at intellectual level, emotional level, spiritual and physical. So, its holistic nature means that it is ideally placed to complement and perhaps even replace existing patterns of treating athletes. Now, for the holistic approach, we will be taking those medicines which can be given as a constitutional medicine, which covers a holistic personality of an athlete. The first medicine is aurum sulphuratum. Now, the aurum sulphuratum has an essence that shows the person wants to be top at all the time. Now, the constitutionally he has to do with the work, performance, he works to increase his performance, he wants to achieve everything, and above all he pines for recognition. A strong anticipatory anxiety is seen in this medicine, and an attitude of perfectionist, which we frequently see in athletes' perspective, followed by another medicine, Mederinum. It has a nervousness and a weakness experience, especially during the daytime and the early hours. He becomes quickly fatigued and distressingly aware of its easy liability to experience weariness. He exhausts easily and agitated and anxiousness to do things as quickly as possible, because he fears that his mental and emotional depression will overtake him. Lycopodium clavatum. We know that lycopodium is considered to be a coward remedy. Why? Because it has a loss of self-confidence, especially for the major events, but while he is performing, he is able to do his duties well. Normally the confident, and he behaves in a superior way. He has a superiority complex and a domineering attitude, but he wakes on the morning of an event full of anxiety, self-doubt and anger. The nervousness makes him more domineering because that is coming as a defense mechanism, and a superiority complex before a match so that he upsets his teammates. He also have a weak stomach, hungry but can only eat very little before feeling very full, noisy abdominal pain and distended when nervous. Carcinosin, we can see a mouse who is heavy weight, who is lifting heavy weight. Carcinosin, in which we can see in a picture a little mouse who is having a weight lifting. The personality of carcinosin is a passionately emotional people who overextend themselves. Just like we can see in the picture how the mouse is overextending. Now, the person of carcinosin, he loves to travel, he has a deep guilt if injured, he loves dancing and music almost obsessively. A very ambitious person, and he is ambitious mostly because of parental ambition for them. That means that he has a peer pressure, he wants to keep his parents happy, so he has to work harder to make them happy. And anxiety that increases with each performance because he is expecting a good result. Despite having experience, he is full of anxiousness, and it is as if he or she believes that the future is certain after a set of performance. Convinced she will fail, yet fears failure. Now, the conscious of the effort and the cost of her training and owing a debt for that to others, fear of cancer, and he is a superstitious. Now, other than the holistic approach, the next management level of homeopathy is symptomatic treatment, in which the symptoms that are the after effects of doping can be treated or managed with homeopathy. So, when we talk about the symptomatic treatment, these following points come under the symptomatic umbrella. First is performance enhancing. Performance enhancing means when the athlete is taking a particular drug for enhancing their performance. Second, as a pain alleviation. Third, for overuse of stimulants. Fourth, physiological, and fifth, psychological treatment. Now, for performance enhancing homeopathic preparations, as such, we are not providing the performance enhancing, but yes, in a natural way, in a similibus way, the homeopathic preparation can be prescribed. Like for example, the arsenic have been administered to few Indian Military Academy boxers, and there were cases of remarkable wins after using of arsenic. Similarly, it was being seen that vanadium and ferrometallicum should also be used together with cobalt to improve the nervous reflexes. Now, for performance enhancing, there are few medicines which increases the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. For that, it includes the copper salts. The copper is a great oxygen carrier and is thought to be favorably influencing the hemoglobin when given in minute amounts. Next is quebracho. Usually we heard of quebracho as a lung tonic. It stimulates the respiratory center and increases the oxygen in the blood. Want of breath means when there is a breathlessness during exertion, it is the guiding symptom of quebracho. Another is vanadium metallicum. Its action is that of an oxygen carrier and a catalyzer, hence its use in wasting diseases in which the patient loses flesh. Well, it increases the amount of hemoglobin and also combines its oxygen with toxin and destroys their virulence. Medicines which increases RBC production, they are acetylidin. The medicines which increases RBC production is acetanilidin or antifebrinum. It destroys red blood corpuscles causing pallor, depresses heart, respiration and blood pressure, lowers temperature, and cyanosis and collapse. Elytris farinosa, stargrass, an anemic relaxed condition, particularly it is seen favorable for females or female organs, and it portrays particularly favorable for female organism, and it is portrayed in this remedy. The patient is tired all the time and suffers from prolapses, leukorrhea, rectal distress, etc. Another medicine, argentum metallicum, Another medicine is argentum nitricum, the nitrate of silver. It has the ability to destroy red blood corpuscles, producing anemia. In this drug, the neurotic effects are very marked. Many brain and spinal symptoms are present. Now, there are a set of medicines which increases the RBC production, like kalium chloricum, chlorate of potassium. Now, anemia, it also have the symptoms like kalium chloricum, chlorate of potassium. It has symptom of anemia. It acts very destructively upon the kidney, producing a Crupper's nephritis, hemoglobinuria, etc. Manganum acetum. So, manganum aceticum, manganese acetate, it causes anemia with the destruction of the red corpuscles, muscular twitching, cramps in calves and stiffness in muscles of legs. The medicines which increase RBC production is trinitrotoluenem, TNT. Now, this helps in trinitrotoluenem TNT. In this medicine, the hemoglobin is changed so it cannot act satisfactorily as an oxygen carrier, and as a result we have breathlessness, dizziness, headache, faintness, palpitation and undue fatigue, muscle cramps and cyanosis. It is also seen in condition of drowsiness, depression and insomnia. The later stages of poisoning produce toxic jaundice and aplastic anemia. Then other medicine is zincum metallicum. It causes a decrease in number and destruction of red blood corpuscles. The proving pictures cerebral depression, and its complaint gets worse with wine. Now, they are the medicines which increases muscular endurance, like arnica montana, lapis pain, a muscular tonic, rheumatism of muscles and tendons tissue, especially of back and shoulders. It also produces condition upon the system quite similar to those resulting from injuries, falls, blows and contusions. Causticum, as we know very well about the causticum, that it manifests its action upon mainly in a chronic, rheumatic, arthritic and paralytic affections. It is indicated by tearing, drawing pains in the muscular and fibrous tissues with deformities about the joints, progressive loss of muscular strength and tendinous contractures. There is also medicine coca, and that is a divine plant of the tribe of Incas, but later on the Spanish priests denounced it as delusion del demonic, which is increasing the demon power of in the form of delusion. But it was being used by the mountaineers, and it is considered to be called as mountaineer's remedy to increase the stamina of the mountaineer, and it is useful in a variety of complaints incidental to mountain climbing, such as palpitation, dyspnea, anxiety and insomnia. Gelsemium sempervirens, yellow jasmine, it causes muscular weakness, dullness, dizziness, drowsiness, trembling, tremors, lack of muscular coordination. Then another medicine is cola, that is cola nut. It gives power to endure prolonged physical exertion without taking food and without feeling fatigue. Now the set of medicines for pain alleviation: Aconite napellus, monkshood for acute pain, serous membranes and muscular tissues affected markedly, weak and lax ligaments of all joints. Then there is Argentum metallicum. The chief action is centered on the articulation and the component elements, bones, cartilage and ligaments. Bellesperinus daisy, it is first remedy in injuries to the deeper tissues after major surgical work, or excellent remedy for sprain and bruises, particularly for railway spine. This picture portrays the different sports injuries which can be seen. Now, followed with the pain alleviation: Calcarea florica, swelling or indurated enlargements having their seat in the fascia and capsular ligament of joints or in the tendons. Symphysica racemosa, black snake root. Its action is Symphysica racemosa, black snake root. It causes muscular and crampy pains primarily of neurotic origin occurring nearly every part of body. That is a characteristic symptom. Formica rufa, by crushed live ants. It is given when there is a complaint from overlifting. The muscles feel strained and torn from the attachments. Gettysburg equa. It is suitable for when the condition is ligaments are rigid, the pain in ligaments relieved by rest. Then there is a magnesium phosphoricum, phosphate of magnesia, the great antispasmodic remedy, cramping of muscles with radiating pain. Rhamnus californica, California coffee tree. Rhamnus californica, California coffee tree, one of the most positive remedies for rheumatism and muscular pains. Rus toxicodendron poison ivy affects the fibrous tissues, markedly joints, tendons, sheath, aponeurosis, etc., producing pain and stiffness. Picric acid, this remedy will help to overcome the effects of prolonged anxiety in athletes, also causing a symptom of neurasthenia. Now, psychological, there are few of important symptoms which are seen at the time of after effects of doping, and that is roid rage. Roid rage is a condition in which there is a marked aggressiveness, particularly after taking anabolic steroids. Then a condition of depression, then the addiction leading to withdrawal symptoms, then the mood swings are also being seen because of hormonal changes. Roid rage. Now, in roid rage, there are many of medicines which are having anger issues. We can take Staphysagria, Nux vomica, Brineia alba, many of medicines which are having roid rage, but particularly when we talk about the many other conditions which are associated or are present with athletes' performance, we pick Agaricus muscarius. Now, Agaricus anxiety can subside to an extreme euphoria and cheerfulness, as we remember that in first slide, not in exactly, as we remembered in the first section when we are talking about the history of doping, we talk about how the berserkers, Norwegian, they were in habit of taking the agaricus particularly or mushrooms to increase the trance level or to increase the aggression. So, this agaricus anxiety and roid rage, it is the after effects of using too much of steroids by athletes. So, the delirium is full of fury and mania, a frenzy that causes the patient to try to injure himself. He may want to rip out his bowels, for instance, take out his bowels, throw the medicine to his nurse, and the condition of mania, timid or furious with great display of the strength. Now, agaricus is also a spleen remedy, and it causes a typical stitch in the side, and it has cured stitch and runners, enabling them to run further. Mood swings, we have many of medicines like Ignatia or Nux moscata for the mood swings, and in Nux moscata their periods are irregular in time and quantity or absent because of emotions and exertions. Hysterical by nature, given to fainting, hates the thought of food and can only digest highly seasoned food. It suffers from headache, great drowsiness, listless, indifferent, laughing and jesting, forgets words when speaking, sense of duality, thinks she is two-person. For particularly stress, we have arsenic album, which is oversensitive, anxious, fault finding after prolonged strenuous exertion. They are very fastidious about appearance and clothes. That is why they have been termed as gold-headed cane, and inclined to seek many opinions about injury or health, causing a symptom of hypochondriac. Restless legs when tired, restless generally and in sleep which may be disturbed, intense thirst for little sips of water. Cocculus indicus for sleeplessness after extreme physical and mental exhaustion, too tired to sleep, anxious, confused, introspective, forgetful, profound sadness, for example at the end of a demanding dance or sports, especially when there is much of the traveling. Gelsemium sempervirens, flu that comes suddenly after extreme demanding exercise or exertion. It is almost paralyzing, exhaustion, red face, heavy eyelids, cold limbs, aching in all joints, headache and drowsiness. Anxiety and fatigue. Natremure, we have remote and unapproachable, angrily rejects sympathy. Now, anxiety and fatigue. Natremure is having remote and is unapproachable, close personality, angrily rejects sympathy or care, feels very weak on waking from sleep, keeps things very much to herself and avoids sympathy. Next Vomica, normally is quick, active, very competitive, successful, hardworking person, becomes very irritable, impatient, angry and violent when exhausted. Restless, prone to cramp in calves and soles of feet. Calcarea carbonica. The knee may continue to swell following exertion, sometime after the injury, perhaps when the athletes or dancers has started activity again. He or she may suppress doubts about recovery and becomes depressed about it. May be naturally flabby and inclined to put on weight easily, but works hard at fitness, looks out for cold feet and a flabby handshake, very sweaty handshake. Physiological symptoms. Now, the physiological symptoms which we have seen in the after effects of drug substance or PEDs in section 2, where we were talking about the short term and long term effects of doping. So, these are seen in the physiological aspects. In males, it has a symptom of gynecomastia, reduction in sperm count, impotency, shrinking of testicles. Female, cessation of breast development, hirsutism, irregular menses. Common symptom to both genders are, or even seen in adolescents, are liver damage, hypertension, acne, male type baldness, stunted growth and sexual desire increase. Now, the associated female complaints can be dealt with pulsatilla nigricans, known for mild nature, sympathy gaining, attention seeker, mild, timid, emotional, tearful, weeping easily, crave sympathy, worse from eating fat rich food, better in cool fresh air, that you all know very well. Difficulty getting to sleep because she suddenly feels wide awake after performance and her thoughts go round and round, often associated with digestive disorders. Sepia succus. Now, this is also a particularly female remedy. The remedy is often effective for many menstrual problems, including amenorrhea, especially for women whose menstruation have really settled down, especially for women whose menstruation has never really settled down since puberty, feels better from strenuous exercise and dancing. Gynecomastia. Cannabis indica. Here the urine is copious, sexual desire is increased, gynecomastia, lumbago after coition, very high sex drive and high sexual desire. Chlorpromazine. It has symptom of mutism, inexpressive look, facial mobility decreased, paresis, trembling, hypotonia, rigidity, gaps in memory, hypotension, cold feet, constipation and gynecomastia. Corticotrophin. It has symptoms of renal glycosuria, nephritic syndrome, gynecomastia, atrophy of the testicles, sexual impotence, Steen-Leventhal syndrome, where there is a prolonged interval between the menses, large ovaries and virilism, amenorrhea in young girls. So you see many of symptoms which we have studied in the after effects of steroid use are being seen in the medicines of homeopathy. Associated heart ailments: belladonna, the face is flushed, the pupils are dilated, and there is violent palpitation of the heart. The pulse is full, hard, tense. You have studied about the throbbing pulse. The carotids are also throbbing. Then there is a viritum viridae. If this remedy is taken for it at the onset, when the heart action is violent, in viritum viridae, when the heart's action is violent, the pulse is hard, full and bounding like iron. This is a congestion of the lung, brain and cerebrospinal system. The patient is plethoric of large muscular development and of rigid fiber. Associated liver complaints: Feltori is a wonderful remedy. This agent in 1 grain dose before each meal and retiring, it increases the functional ability of the hepatic cells as well as supplying bile to the intestinal tract. It is especially useful if the bowels are inactive, the stools grey, dry and hard. Phosphorus: this is a principal remedy for the fatty degeneration. It is indicated when there is clinical history of hyperemia of the liver, which is enlarged, tender and attended with more or less jaundice is seen. The stools are of light color and it is also been termed as clay colored stool with the absence of bile. Chelidonium majus is a liver remedy, especially organopathic remedy, particularly liver. When this remedy is indicated, there is a congestion of the liver and portal system, and there are several stitches in the liver, particularly in the right hypochondrium, and it extends to the right scapular region. The patient frequently feels nauseated but seldom vomits. There is a bitter taste in the mouth and the tongue is pointed and narrow. Insomnia. Now, it is a wonderful insomnia. The wonderful remedy is Coffea cruda. The condition gets worse with noise, touch, open air, mental exertion, emotion, alcohol, narcotics and night. Gets better by lying, sleep and warmth. The complaints are frequently seen as of insomnia, and its use is for the person who cannot sleep from excitement. For example, if the event is tomorrow or the result is going to be announced, the result is going to be announced of the event or the event is tomorrow, the athlete is so full of excitement that he or she is unable to sleep because of excitement. Overtiredness after a long journey, anticipation of the next day's event, receiving good news or feeling of pleasure after a successful day, hearing every sound becomes irritable from wakefulness. Role of homeopathy in athletic performance and recovery. For that, we can give Arnica montana. Every participant in long distance endurance events of any sort will benefit from it. It will delay the onset of fatigue and promote recovery. Then Plumbum metallicum. This remedy affects the muscles, enabling them to strengthen and develop. It better from hard massage and stretching. Exertion and training makes him weary. Wonderful remedy is Piper methasticum, which is known as kava kava. 1 dose of this remedy has the ability to make a person, 1 dose of this remedy has the ability to enable a person to exercise without fatigue. More than 2 doses will produce intense torpor and tiredness, and it is also an anxiolytic remedies. It relieves anxiousness in athletes. Someone who is highly strung and excitable, cheerful, enjoys dancing, sports activity, entertainment and eats hurriedly, then suddenly he becomes bored and solitary, irritable and sleepy without any cause, and he is having a headache, is restless, very sleepy during day but sleepless at night and feels very weak. Adrenalinum. It is an sarcode. It possesses powerful local action over dilated blood vessels. When injected into the circulation, arteries become contracted and blood pressure rises. Prolonged contraction of general muscular system, and repeated injections causes erythema. Repeated injections causes atheroma and heart lesions in animals. Now, there is a repertorial approach for the few symptoms which we usually do not find in Matra Medica. It can be, now we will be looking upon the repertorial approach to confirm the symptoms which we find in Matra Medica with the indexing of repertory. In the repertory, the few rubrics have been found which we can correlate after effects caused. In repertorial approach, we see few of the rubrics which covers the symptoms which we frequently see in the after effects caused by doping, like performance anxiety, performance from upcoming event or from upcoming performance. Here, performance anxiety by upcoming events seen in aconite, argentum nitricum, gelseminum, lycopodium, natriureum, silicate. In the after effects of doping, particularly seen in the athletes. These are the anxiety from upcoming performance seen in aconite, argentum nitricum, gelseminum, lycopodium, natriureum. With performance anxiety, gelseminum, from abuse of stimulants, nux vomica, spigelia. Strength, to increase strength is seen in agaricus, arsenic, fluoric acid, natrum phos. Sensation of increased strength, agaricus, bufo, coca. Lot many of medicines which we have studied in Matra Medica, we can just correlate with the rubric which we find in repertory. Toxicity, overdose of drug, we see nux vomica frequently being seen and repeated in number of rubrics under toxicity rubric. Abuse of narcotics, belladonna, chamomilla, coffea, lachesis, nux vomica. Stimulant desire for, clonine, nux vomica, zinc. Abuse of strychnine, chamomilla, curare, eucalyptus, salibromatum, etc. Addiction of cocaine, avena, coca. Now, a lot many of addictions we will find one remedy which is common to all is avena sativa. Addiction to narcotics, avena, nux vomica. Addiction to heroin or ailments from, avena, opium. Addiction to morphine, avena, opium. Addiction to nicotine, we have nicotine, avena. So, avena is common in most of the addiction. If there is an addictive personality, carcinosin, lachesis. Weakness from drugging, avena, carboveg. Now, heart disease as a sequel of fatty degeneration of liver, a single remedy is phosphorus. Then there is pressing pain, indurated livers in caused by high living, single medicine is nux vomica. General weakness after sports, arnica, coca, arsenic, fluoric acid, and the arrested development in children, we have agaricus, baryta carp, calcarea carp. Arrested development in children, we have agaricus, baryta carp, calcarea, phos, carcinosin. So, although homeopathic preparations are effective in treating all these conditions, they may not provide the complete answer alone and should be used to complement other methods of rehabilitation whenever appropriate. Now, the CAM role in enhancing athletic performance. Since we have seen the homeopathic approach, there is also a complementary alternative medicines which will be helping in the management, and these are the athletes may use CAM not just for prevention, treatment or rehabilitation from illness or injuries, but also for the athletes may use CAM not only for prevention, treatment or rehabilitation, but also for performance enhancement. So, it is like that the athlete's creative use of anything unconventional is aimed at legally improving performance. The CAM may be used because it is completely natural and it can be used rather than using the doping methods. Now, the CAM therapy is hijama, also known as cupping, is an ancient healing technique involved creating a vacuum on the skin using cups traditionally made from glass to draw toxins and promote healing. Now, there was a movie of Karate Kid in which the kid was being treated by this fire cupping. If you all remember that how the Zaudre was being treated by the fire cupping for quick healing of his injury. So, the fire cupping method, a traditional therapy, involves creating a suction on the skin using heated cups to potentially alleviate pain and muscle tension by stimulating blood flow and promoting the relaxation. In complementary and alternative medicine, many therapeutic skills, that is acupuncture, moxibustion, massage, or more therapeutic modalities, that is vibrating foam roller, low level laser therapy, cold water immersion, kinesiology tapes are applied on the fatigued athletes or a particularly athlete's part. Kinesiology taping, this depicts the kinesiological taping method that is actually used as an elastic tape to mimic the skin elasticity, supporting the muscles. It reduces pain and improves the circulation by stimulating the body's natural healing mechanism. Now, safety and effectiveness. Now, the physiotherapy is most effective treatment for injuries sustained by physical performers from immediate application of RICE. Its full form is rest, ice, compression and elevation, to exercises promoting rehabilitation and inducing all the thermal and electrical techniques. The physiotherapist or osteopaths are almost the only resource for the injured athletes. Although the physical relief of the pain is there, easing of stiffness is there and reduction of swelling and hematoma, and the mobilization and manipulation or other means, and it is quite managing it well, but it does not go for a very long way or speedy recovery. So, for that the rehabilitation plays an important part in recovery, but it is often cut short or neglected because of the urge to return to the activity. So, the proper recovery of the muscles or the injury does not take place. Now, the rehabilitation has particularly 5 important stages. Stage 1 is rest and protecting injured tissues. So, its focus is on controlling the pain and swelling, allowing the initial healing process to start. Now, activities include RICE full form is rest, ice, compression and elevation, and a gentle movement to maintain some range of motion. The stage 2 covers regaining mobility and movement, where the focus is on improving the range of motions. Stage 2 is regaining mobility and movement. Focus is on improving range of motions, flexibility and joint mobility. Focus is on improving range of motion, flexibility and joint mobility. Activities: stretching, range of motions, exercise and gentle mobility exercise. Now, stage 3 has strength and stamina. So, the following focus is on rebuilding. So, the focus is on rebuilding muscle strength, stamina and endurance. Activities that are followed: progressive resistance exercises, strength training and cardiovascular condition. Stage 4 is proprioception. The focus is improving balance, coordination and neuromuscular control. Activities are balance exercises, agility drills, proprioceptive training. And stage 5 is rebuilding sport specific technical movements. Focus: reintegrating sport specific movements and skills. Activities: sport specific drills, practice and gradual return to the full activity. There is psychological support also by addressing the mental challenge of recovery, such as fear of re-injury or loss of motivation. So, the techniques like visualization and a mental conditioning, which includes positive self-talking, can help. The prevention strategies are educating athletes about proper techniques, strengthening vulnerable areas and using appropriate gear to avoid future injuries. Now, these are how intense core workouts to improve the endurance. Now, about the herbal supplements, it is seen in the data that the herbal supplements have more percentage of cranberry followed by soy and garlic echinacea, johnworts, ginseng, elderberry, Siberian ginseng. Now, there should be a portable foods for athletes, and the rule is never to let yourself feeling hungry. Hungry athletes have always a low performance, so these munching snacks an athlete can carry for providing better nutrition. Now, there is also a physician's role. The physicians are critical educators with unique insights into the patient and the science. In addition to the caring role, the physician act as medical directors, medical review officers for drug testing, and they provide therapeutic use exemptions. The physicians who serve as a team physicians, they should be familiar with the drugs that have been written in the drugs that have been enlisted in the prohibition list and doping control regulations and ethical boundaries. Like for instance, at the 2000 Summer Olympics, a Romanian team physician unknowingly he provided a gymnast with pseudoephedrine, which was banned at that time, leading to the disqualification and medal loss as well as his own 4-year suspension. So, the physician should be aware of the prohibition list. Now, as said by Charles Darwin, it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. And for that, there are few instances or the few cues which we can see that would be helping us to understand, like the Fosbury flop. This Fosbury flop was a technique of jumping style that was being used by Dick Fosbury in track and field sport, and that was particularly for high jump. It was so popularized and perfected by American athlete Dick Fosbury, so for that it has been named as Fosbury flop. The fitness icon known for cover drive Virat Kohli, how he has his own technique of victory and how by his discipline he has maintained as a fitness icon. The high jumps, the Cristiano Ronaldo is known as a footballer and a fitness enthusiast who boasts an extraordinary set of athletic skills combining rapid pace and agility with elite aerial ability and power. So, while concluding, there are certain measures to avoid doping practice, of which there are 4 important principles to be followed if drug use is to be prevented. First, we must be honest with the athletes about the advantages and the side effects of the drugs. We must educate the athletes, particularly school age athletes, about the problems associated with drug taking, including alcohol and tobacco. Thirdly, they should be random, internationally verified, out of competition drug testing must be carried out regularly. And lastly and most important is the society's attitude that winning is the only thing that matters must be gradually changed. The last point will be the hardest battle to win, because there is a lot of peer pressure for which the athletes want to win, and for that purpose they are dwelling on performance enhancing drugs. So, we can stop it if the society attitude changes towards the winning of a particular athletes. So, lastly, with this we end our slides. If you train hard, you will not only be hard, you will be hard to beat by Herschel Walker. These are the reference which you can go forward and read to find more about this interesting topic. Now, we will be quickly summarizing what we read today. Why homeopathy? Because it is effective, fast and affordable treatment for sports injuries and illnesses. It does not interfere with other therapies or neither violate anti-doping regulations. It has a holistic approach. In holistic approach, we have few interesting medicines: aurum sulphuratum, which has constitutionally work for performance, achievement, recognition and a perfectionist; medeorinum, which is nervous, weak, fatigued, with urgency driven by fear of mental and emotional collapse; lycopodium describes a person with performance anxiety, with loss of confidence, but despite of that he is a good performer; carcinosin describes as a highly emotional, ambitious individual prone to overexertion with a deep guilt related to injury; Symptomatic treatment, performance enhancing, pain alleviation, overuse of stimulants, physiological and psychological effects that can be managed with homeopathy. The performance enhancing homeopathic preparation, remedies and supplements like arsenic, tissue salts, vanadium, ferromet, cobalt were taken by the army people boxing team, and that medicines were able to alleviate the pain, boost their energy and nervous reflexes. Performance enhancing medicines like copper salts, which cause improving in oxygen transport, quibracho enhanced breathing by stimulating respiratory centers, vanadium metallicum, it acts as oxygen carrier and catalyst, boosting hemoglobin and neutralizing toxins. Medicines which increase RBC production is acetaldehyde, elytrus, argentum nitricum, calichloricum. Medicines with increased RBC production is manganum aceticum, trinitrotoluene, zincum metallicum. Now, manganum aceticum, it induces anemia by destroying RBCs. TNT alters hemoglobin, impairing its oxygen carrying capacity. Zincum met, it decreases the number and destroys RBCs. The medicines with increased muscular endurance are Arnica montana, particularly as a muscle tonic. Causticum, it treats chronic rheumatic arthritic complaints. Coca addresses altitude sickness. Gelsemium targets muscle weakness and lack of coordination. Cola enhances endurance during prolonged physical activity without the need for food or causing fatigue. Pain alleviation, Aconite napellus, targeting serous membranes. Argentum, targeting joints, bones and cartilage. Bellis perennis for deep tissue injuries. Calcarea floricum, addressing swelling and induration in joints. Fascia, ligaments and tendons. Simpsifugua racemosa treats muscular and crampy pains. Formica rufa relieves muscle strain and tearing from overlifting. Gettysburg equa alleviates ligaments pain with rest, targeting ligament rigidity. Magnesium phos, the cramping pain, antispasmodic effect. Ramus california effectively treats rheumatism and muscular pains. Rust toxicodendron targets fibrous tissues. Picric acid helps athletes overcome the effects of prolonged anxiety. Now, the psychological effects have roid rage because of the steroid action, depression, addiction, mood swings. The stress, arsenic alum for increased sensitivity, anxiety and criticalness. Cocculus for exhaustion-induced insomnia, mental and emotional symptoms. Gelsemium, flu after exertion, anxiety and fatigue of Natramure rejects sympathy and feels weak. Nux vomica becomes irritable, is quite competitive. Calcarea carb experience delayed knee swelling. Physiological symptoms are some medicines which are particularly for male symptoms, and physiologically the male have the symptoms of gynecomastia, reduced sperm count, impotence. Female have cessation of breast development, hirsutism, excessive hair growth. And common for genders is liver damage, hypertension, male pattern baldness and stunted growth. Role of homeopathy in athletic performance and recovery. We have arnica, it benefits endurance athletes by delaying fatigue. Plumbum metallicum, strengthen and develop muscles. Piper methasticum, it is dosage dependent energy. One dose increases exercise endurance while more than 2 causes lethargy. Adrenalinum, local action is constricts dilated blood vessels. Mood swings seen in Nux mosquita, roid rage in agaricus. Female complaints, we have pulsatilla for delayed periods, sepia treats menstrual issues. Gynecomastia, cannabis indica for increased sexual desire and gynecomastia. Chlorpromazine, mutualism, decreased mobility, tremors, rigidity. Corticotrophin, renal glycosuria, nephritic syndrome, gynecomastia. Associated heart ailments, we have belladonna with flushed face, veretum viridae with violent heart action. Associated liver complaints, Feltori increases liver function, phosphorus with fatty degeneration, chalcedonium with liver congestion, particularly right side ailments. For insomnia, there is a cophia from excitement or overtiredness, sensitive to noise or irritable. Now with repertorial approach, we have few of the medicines like in performance anxiety, Econite, Argentum nitricum, Gelsemium, Lycopodium. For performance anxiety with stimulant abuse, we have Nux vomica. Increased strength remedies, agaricus, fluoric acid. Sensation of increased strength remedies, there are numerous medicine among which agaricus, arsenic, bell, coca. Toxicity with drug overdose, remedies exist for various, arsenic, gelsemium. Physical effects, remedies address with the liver tissues is phosphorus, Nux vomica. So, homeopathy can complement other rehabilitation methods. There is a CAM therapy in which hijama cupping is used as a vacuum cup to draw out toxins. Fire cupping is also being used. Kinesiology taping are elastic tapes to support muscles, reduce pain and improve circulation. The CAM role in enhancing athletic performance are for performance enhancement because it is natural and non-doping. Safety and effectiveness, physiotherapy is crucial for athlete injury treatment using the RISE exercise and techniques for pain, stiffness and swelling. The rehabilitation have the following 5 stages: rest and protection, mobility restoration, strength and stamina building, balance and coordination improvement, sport specific skill reintegration. Now there is also physician's role. They act as the medical directors, drug test officers and the grand TUEs. The techniques which have been used by athletes rather than going for the doping technique, famous is Fosbury flop by Dick Fosbury, the fitness icon, cover drive Virat Kohli, the Cristiano Ronaldo's fitness enthusiast and famous for his agility and aerial shots. Now there's measures to avoid doping practice. The drug use prevention requires honest communication about drug effects, athletes educations, especially youth, regular drug testing, shifting societies, win at all cost mentality. So with this we end our today's section, and with this section we end the module which was based on doping in sports medicine. And today we talked about the homeopathic management and CAM management along with the rehabilitation. And lastly, we also discussed what the society needs. We cannot always blame the athletes for doping. Everyone is involved, and the society, the physician's role, the athlete's role, there has to be control. I hope the lecture was interesting and easy to understand for all of you. Thank you so much for listening.